Years ago, a young boy about 7 or 8 years old visited a man-made lake with his family in South Georgia. The lake wasn't natural, it was a dugout pond surrounded by beach sand and palm trees. Families came here to park, grill, swim, and spend the day. But hidden beneath the bright sunshine and laughter was something dangerous. The water's edge was steep, uneven, and notoriously unsafe. The boy's family usually parked near a small island, a clump of sand just 30 yards off the shoreline. The water was shallow enough for him to bob up and down, just above his head, and for a child who couldn't swim well, it felt safe. That tiny island seemed harmless, but that day it would change his life forever. As he bounced toward the island, something beneath his foot sent a shiver down his spine. His toes brushed against something solid, something soft, something unmistakably human. He felt the outline of a face, the shape of a nose. And then, the sensation that would haunt him forever: fine hair flowing between his toes in the cold, still water. Frightened, the boy ran back to shore and sat there for what felt like hours. He was too young to understand what had just happened, too stunned to move. Around him, panic erupted. Parents shouted their children's names, calling desperately for a little boy who had disappeared under the water. Their fear was palpable, and the lake, which once seemed playful and inviting, had become a scene of terror. The boy watched as they pulled the child's lifeless body from the water, right in front of the small island. The memory of the hair between his toes, the cold water, and the face beneath him would remain with him forever. Even decades later, at the age of 47, he remembers that horrifying sensation as if it happened yesterday. Some childhood memories are too terrifying to ever forget. For this boy, the lake, the little island, and the chilling touch beneath the water became a memory that would never fade. Even years later, he can feel it, the sensation of hair between his toes, and the cold, dark water that hides more than it reveals. In North Carolina, a middle-aged woman was haunted by memories she could barely explain. One fleeting memory in particular had stayed with her since childhood: the image of her father's face in the farm privy. He had abandoned the family when she was only 5, leaving behind a broken household and unanswered questions. Decades later, as strange memories surfaced, she turned to therapy for help, unaware that what she would uncover would shake her to the core. Her therapist suggested hypnotic regression to unlock the suppressed memories. Under hypnosis, fragments began to surface, glimpses of her father's face in the old outhouse, and chillingly, scenes of her mother, alone in the kitchen, mopping up blood. When the girl had asked what happened, her mother had screamed for her to go back to bed. The woman still had ties to the family farm, and the hypnotic memories only grew more vivid. She noticed small, unsettling details she had long forgotten. Eventually, she shared everything with local authorities. The sheriff obtained a warrant to dig where the old privy had once stood, a spot that had seemed ordinary for decades. And then, the unimaginable was revealed. Her father's remains were discovered in the old privy, cut up, presumably to fit down the hole. The horror that had haunted her childhood for decades suddenly had a gruesome reality. The farm, which had once seemed a place of simple rural life, was now the site of a chilling secret. See, this was before the internet, but the story developed quickly in the local paper. As the district attorney prepared to decide whether to press charges, the woman's mother, now in her 70s, drove out to the North 40 acres with a pistol. The past, it seemed, was not yet done with them. Some childhood memories hide terrible truths. For this woman, a fleeting memory of a familiar face in an old privy led to a dark discovery that would haunt her and her family forever. And even decades later, the shadows of the past remained, lurking, waiting, never forgotten. Over the heath, there was an ancient, crumbling waterhouse where the entire estate's water system was managed. It was made of bricks, with a black slate roof and iron doors, though by the time of this story it was only a shadow of its former self. The doors were gone, and the windows had been smashed by generations of children throwing stones. This is where Mama and her siblings played as kids, and the place had always spooked them, as it did the younger cousins many years later. One hot summer during school holidays, the older boys, responsible teenagers, decided to take the younger cousins blackberry picking to keep them quiet. Mama agreed gratefully. Half an hour later, everyone had their fruit buckets and they set off. The children excited for their favorite summer activity and Gran's famous blackberry pies. On their way, the older boys told spooky stories as they always did. Half to scare the younger kids, half because they were asked to. But as they reached the Waterhouse, everyone stopped talking. No one dared speak around it, not even the older boys. Something about the building made it eerie even in daylight. There was a second fence to pass before reaching the blackberry field. As they squeezed through, memories of the Waterhouse's dark stories came back. Local legend told of a gang of bank robbers in the 1960s, who fled here after a botched heist where several people were shot. The gang hid in the Waterhouse, and months later, the bodies of the remaining robbers were found decaying inside. After that, strange occurrences began. Hairy figures glimpsed among pipes, a moldy rotten smell, eerie wails and murmurs day and night. Locals gave the area a wide berth, leaving the Waterhouse abandoned. Seen once through, the younger cousins built up courage and glanced back at the Waterhouse. Then they were rounded up by the older boys, who put the child back in the wheelchair, and they continued to the blackberry field. Their other local kids joined them. They spent a joyful afternoon picking berries, splashing in the river and enjoying the sun. For a while the Waterhouse was forgotten. On the way back, the air felt heavy like before a storm. At the fence before the Waterhouse, the youngest older boy helped lift the wheelchair over. Suddenly one of the boys whispered, "Something moved at the back of there, bruv." Everyone froze. The boy went to investigate. Then came a shriek and the others ran, carrying the younger kids. "Don't look back! Don't look back!" he shouted. But one glance was enough. Yellow eyes, a hairy face, staring from the ruins of the Waterhouse. Terror gripped them all. They didn't stop until reaching the fence leading back to the road. Exhausted and shaken, they finally felt safe. At home, their relatives asked what had happened. The older boys claimed it was just an old drunk man looking for golf balls. The truth, yellow eyes and a hairy face, remained a secret. The Waterhouse was never approached again by the cousins for a long time.